never seen anything like that in my life.
Written and directed by Zach Cregger, Weapons has been the talk of the town among horror fans even months before its release. Following the commercial success of Barbarian, Cregger has taken on more elaborate horror projects and has even gone all out with his marketing strategies for his upcoming release. Starring Julia Garner and Josh Brolin in the lead roles, Weapons is set in a small town where almost every single child in the 3rd grade has disappeared into the night, and the story promises one hell of a roller coaster ride in solving the mystery behind their disappearances. Moreover, a leaked script for the film has further confirmed everything that we can expect from this nail-biting horror, and today we'll be telling you everything we know about the demonic entities in Weapons. Before we get into this explanation, we do have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to the channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The core mystery. At its very core, the film promises a lot more fun and drama than any average horror film, and the script also shifts with every few scenes to offer insight into different characters' points of view. It kicks off with Justine Gandy, a 3rd grade teacher at Maybrook Elementary, as she makes her way to class to realize that none of the kids have shown up. While she takes a moment to figure out what's happening, only one of her students, Alex Lilly, sits at his desk while his 17 classmates are a no-show. As the screen cuts to black, we learn that the rest of the kids had woken up under mysterious circumstances at 2:17 a.m. the night before and quietly walked out of their yard before finally disappearing into the darkness of the night. Of course, these details are just based on the script, while the trailer leaves much to the imagination. Well, one of the kids, named Maddie, narrates the story in a voiceover. Parents start demanding justice for their children and even hurl accusations at their teacher, Justine Gandy. Of course, there's a lot more to it than meets the eye, as these children seem to be possessed, and many doorbell ring cameras capture them running through the darkness with their arms stretched out wide. When the trailer comes to an end, we're left with no answers regarding the fate of these children or the circumstances under which they disappear. This trailer was widely praised for stirring up curiosity among viewers, as well as its elements, including a child narrating the film, further adding to the terror of the entire incident. While fans craved more answers, the script for the film was leaked online ahead of its August release, and today we're going to break down the plot and everything you can expect from the film, including details about the creature that has taken these children and town by surprise. What kind of creature is in Weapons? What is the story all about? Leaked script details and trailer analysis reveals a lot about the antagonist, who appears to be a witch-like entity. As the plot kicks off, the parents start panicking about their children's disappearances, while the cops try to talk to Alex about his missing classmates, but the kid doesn't seem to know anything about it. As the scene shifts to the teacher, Mrs. Gandy, several parents assign blame to her, and Principal Andrew even has no choice but to ask her to take a short break while the cops continue their investigation. Moreover, the voiceover reveals that the school had organized a meeting where counselors tried to help the residents cope with their emotions, while one of the parents, Archer, lashes out at Mrs. Gandy. This only seems to be the start of her troubles, as Mrs. Gandy soon finds herself in a position where she feels like there are mysterious eyes on her at all times. While she locks herself into her home at night, she hears loud banging sounds and all sorts of eerie noises before finally working up the courage to open her door and investigate. Even though there seems to be no one around, she spots the words "witch" painted onto her car and tries her best to cope with her break, even though she would prefer to keep working through the distress. Meanwhile, we learn that the sole survivor from the 3rd grade, Alex, has been transferred to Mrs. Bell's class, and Principal Andrew strictly forbids Mrs. Gandy from meeting him. Frustrated over recent events, Justine reaches out to an old friend, Officer Paul, and meets him for a drink before inviting him over and spending the night together. While she shares her worries about the disappearances with him, he offers little reassurance and asks her to sit back and let him and the other officers deal with the situation. However, Justine cannot help herself from trying to get in touch with him and even peeking through his home, despite Principal Andrew's insistence that she must leave him alone. She seems to be having a particularly rough day as Paul's partner, Donna, tracks her down at the liquor store and physically assaults her for having slept with him. After accepting that it's just not her day, Justine finally tries to catch a break and heads to bed, only to be plagued by creepy images of her students. To make matters worse, she sees flashes of Alex's panicked face and even has a strange vision of a woman in a bright green jacket and striking makeup staring at her from her ceiling. While she's terrified at the sight of this woman hanging upside down from the ceiling, the vision disappears in the blink of an eye, and the scene shifts to the next day. Her visions continue, and she sees a strange woman appear on her doorstep and cut off a chunk of her hair, and then the perspective shifts to one of the parents, Archer. From this point of view, we learn that Archer and his wife have been struggling to come to terms with their son's disappearance. Among other things, Archer lashes out at his co-workers, blames Justine for the situation, and even has troubles coping as he realizes that the children have been wiped out of a picture of the entire grade. As he sleeps at night, he hears strange noises around the house and even runs downstairs when he spots his child Matthew as he runs around with his arms wide open. While Archer screams out to him and even follows, Matthew finally makes his way to his bed with his father on his heels. However, the kid seems to have disappeared into thin air, and the same strange woman who plagued Justine's vision had replaced his son under the sheets. Moreover, she has a gleeful look on her face that almost screams that she's proud of how she fooled Archer, while the poor old man recoils. The next morning, Archer spots the tower that he had seen Matthew run towards and even uses a map to figure out where the kids might be hiding, with very little success. In no time, a whole lot of chaos unfolds as Archer tries to confront Justine, while Officer Paul spots a homeless man, Anthony, and even gets into an altercation with him before the perspective finally shifts from Andrew to Anthony. He seems to be making ends meet by pawning his stuff, and he finally sets his eyes on Alex's house in the hopes that he can steal something. As he breaks in, he realizes that the adults in the living room have no sense of reality and makes his way through the house before finally reaching the basement. Here, he's utterly shocked when he finds the 17 missing children who seem to be perfectly still until they sense Anthony's presence and turn towards him. While they stare at him in unison, he somehow escapes the house and calls the cops in the hopes of getting the monetary reward that was promised to anyone who could find the kids. However, he's already gotten off on the wrong foot with Paul, who doesn't take him seriously and eventually shoos him away. As Anthony wanders around the forests, he spots the same witchy woman who had terrorized Justine and Archer's dreams, and he makes a run for it, assuring himself that this was just a vision. As he struggles with reality and makes sense of this woman's appearance, he ends up stabbing Paul in a trance. While the police officer pulls his gun out, Anthony promises him that he knows where the kids are and even guides him to Alex's house. When Paul goes in to investigate alone, Anthony waits outside until Paul finally emerges. However, he seems to be a shadow of his former self, and he even walks out with his arms at his sides and a strange look on his face that suggests that he's been possessed. Once again, the story takes a sharp turn as the perspective switches to Principal Andrew, who schedules a meeting with Alex's parents. Much to his dismay, Alex's aunt Glattis shows up at his office instead and informs him that she has stepped in to take care of him while his parents have been unwell. This moment ties the film together, as Glattis strikingly resembles the deranged witch who's been plaguing everyone's visions with her twisted appearances. While Andrew insists that he must speak with Alex's parents, Glattis emphasizes that they are quite sick and later even shows up at his house to convince him not to contact the authorities. However, she seems to be in an erratic state of mind, and she even removes a razor from her bag and slices her palm open before laughing it off as a silly incident. While Principal Andrew and his wife Ginny are utterly perplexed, Glattis even cuts off some of Ginny's hair and smears her bloodied palm across Andrew's face. It seems like Glattis places Andrew under her spell and convinces him to kill Ginny before running around town with his arms wide open. She seems rather pleased with everything she's done so far, and soon enough, we learn that she has sent him to track Justine down and kill her as well. While Justine tries to make a run for it, Archer rushes to her rescue and even tries to help her when a car driver slams into Andrew and kills him. With all these accidents and deaths around town, Justine and Archer come together to discuss Andrew's strange behavior, and Archer finally shares his findings about the kids acting in a certain way. They investigate the map he had created and deduce that all these strange incidents are tied to Alex Lilly's house, which falls right in the dead center of the circled neighborhood. How does the witch-like entity control and possess her victims? While the film gears up for its finale, we can deduce that Glattis's ability to possess her victims comes from a special plant and a structured ritual that helps her control her victims. In several instances, Glattis cuts up her own hands or body parts to bleed out on a stick, then wraps her next victim's hair around it. At this point, she typically snaps the stick around her target and brings them under her control before directing them to track down the victim and kill them. The entire ritual was quite evident in the way Glattis convinced Principal Andrew to kill his wife Ginny by slicing her palm open and rubbing her blood on a stick before chopping off some of Ginny's hair. She had then wrapped her hair around the stick and snapped it into two before smearing her blood over Andrew, who immediately fell into a trance-like state. He then proceeded to tackle his wife and even spew black bile all over her face before killing her, while Glattis took out some of Justine's hair from a bag and wrapped it around his stick. This action then directed Andrew towards pursuing her next, while Glattis walked away with a sense of satisfaction. What was the final twist in the film? How did it end? After Archer and Justine deduced that these strange incidents were rooted in Alex Lilly's home, we finally see things from the young boy's perspective. Before any of the events unfolded, Alex's father had informed him that his Aunt Glattis would be staying with them for a while because she was sick and that they should look out for her since she was family. When she first appears at their door, Glattis seems to be a frail old woman who looks like an entirely different person compared to the youthful, vibrant aunt who greeted Principal Andrew. While Alex gets acquainted with her, he notices a strange potted tree with thorns and little black leaves on her dresser and finally glances at her to realize that she's on her deathbed. As she stares at the ceiling with sunken eyes, Alex ends up catching her attention and they lock eyes for a moment before he shuts the door and runs away. While he attends school the next day, Glattis gets to work, bringing his parents under her control and regaining her strength before chirpily greeting him when he arrives home. Even though he notices that his parents have gone nonverbal and that something is terribly wrong with them, Glattis refuses to acknowledge any change and even terrorizes the young kid by pulling out a small stick wrapped in human hair. She snaps the stick in two, and Alex's parents start stabbing themselves in the face, and Glattis warns him against sharing any of this information with the kids at school. She further threatens to make his parents inflict more harm upon themselves if he doesn't listen to her, and Alex agrees to do so. He also tries to maintain regular appearances at school and prepares Valentine's cards for a class activity, while Glattis gets her hands on them and performs a ritual with candles, plant leaves, and fire. While these cards are meant to be gifts to his classmates, they soon turn into a weapon of mass terror as they fall under Glattis's control while Alex watches helplessly. These children soon head to his home, where Glattis keeps them in the basement, and Alex takes it upon himself to spoon-feed all of them as well as his parents. He even keeps his mouth shut in front of the cops to ensure that Glattis doesn't harm his parents and dutifully stocks up on groceries and feeds them all. Every now and then, Glattis terrorizes him, especially when Anthony breaks into the house and stirs up trouble, but Alex keeps his cool and finds himself at a dead end. As the film culminates in a striking climax, Justine and Archer drive to his house and wait outside while a blanked-out Paul opens the door and ushers them in. While his parents had been positioned as guards outside Glattis's door, Archer and Justine investigate the house when Anthony sneaks up on them and tries to attack them. Meanwhile, Alex bravely decides to disobey Glattis and step over the salt boundary she had drawn to keep others at bay, but his parents snap out of their stupor and run after him. All hell breaks loose as Archer and Justine fight against a brainwashed Paul and Anthony, while Alex locks himself in his room and somehow distracts his parents for long enough. As they start fighting amongst themselves, Archer eventually discovers the children in the basement, while Alex realizes that Glattis is nowhere to be found. However, she soon appears in the midst of the action and brings Justine under her control, while Alex rushes to the master bedroom to wreck her ritualistic setup in the hopes that this would snap everyone out of her control. He thinks on his feet and grabs some hair from Glattis's wig before biting into his own hand and squeezing some blood out on a stick, and his actions suggest that he's trying to perform the same ritual as her. As he takes a deep breath and snaps the stick in two, he successfully uses her magic trick against her to bring all 17 children under his control. While Glattis watches in horror, the children run after her and finally get their hands on her as they stab and bite away at her physique before ultimately killing her. What was the final twist all about? Even though Justine and the others regain their senses and even rush to Alex to ensure that he's all right, it seems like Glattis's control over them wasn't entirely gone even after her death. When Alex checks up on his parents or his classmates, he senses a blank look on their faces and empty eyes that are devoid of any emotion, suggesting that the trauma from her magic is now rooted in their lives. Are the children being used as weapons? The possession rituals carried out by Glattis, paired with her magical plant trick and the cursed Valentine's Day cards distributed among the children, clearly suggest that she hoped to turn them into her army of weapons. On numerous instances in the film, Glattis doesn't shy away from using her stick, blood, and a lock of her next victim's hair to bring her next target under control and essentially use them as a weapon to claim her next victim's life. This is also a reference to the film's title, but unfortunately, it backfired when Alex managed to turn the children into weapons against Glattis. Are the antagonist's powers rooted in supernatural forces? While Glattis isn't your average horror monster, she appears to be some kind of human witch with magical abilities and ritualistic knowledge that enables her to bring people under her control. She doesn't seem to have non-human origins, but at the same time, she often uses self-harm, blood rituals, and a magic plant to exert her power and control over children and adults alike. Key scenes and visuals. Both the trailer and the script have presented some strikingly terrifying visuals for the film, which maintains an eerie tone from start to finish. With Glattis' jump scare appearances on victim ceilings and children's beds, to other instances where she straight up slices her palm open to gather blood, this film is packed with gore and is definitely not for the faint of heart. Moreover, there are scenes where characters have visions where they're being held down with blood-covered hands, involved in exorcism-like activities, or even forced to kill or torture their spouses. To top it all off, the film's premise revolves around 17 third graders who have fallen prey to these rituals, as well as Alex's parents, who have been stuck in a frozen trance-like state where they are compelled to torture one another in front of their child. All these instances promise a thrilling, gore-packed film, and Warner Bros. Has also launched a creepy website, maybrookmissing.com, which adds to the drama surrounding the film. This site leads to a homepage titled Maybrook News, which seems to contain news articles and grainy camera footage of the children's disappearances. Marvelous verdict! Even though Weapons is slated for release on August 6th, fans are already quite hyped for Zach Cregger to work his magic once more. The leaked script also promises a whole lot of atmospheric tension, eerie visuals, and all kinds of supernatural rituals and gore in the upcoming release, and we can't wait for it to hit theaters. In the meantime, we hope you enjoy indulging in the film's widespread marketing campaign, including its eerie websites, and we hope you share your thoughts on the script and the creature that defines this film in the comments down below. Otherwise, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.